carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. They're all coming back today. This is Norris Teaches Science, Biology, Biology Edition. I'm stumbling here. Um, and today I present nature cycles. And so by the end of this video, I can explain the interactions of the environment and organisms in major important nature cycles. So there's a couple nature cycles that we're going to cover in here, just three, but they're really important for ecology because that's where we're still talking about. So the first nature cycle we're going to talk about is something called the carbon cycle. And it's very important ecosystem. It talks about how carbon is goes between the atmosphere, the oceans, the organisms, the land itself. Some key points to it is that plants taking carbon from the atmosphere. Plants get eaten by consumers, and decomposers return carbon to the atmosphere. Consumers can also return carbon to the atmosphere as well by just breathing out. And if the balance is upsetted, stuff like global warming or climate disruptions may resolve. And as of right now, we are seeing some of those results because we do have an excess of carbon in the atmosphere that we cannot take out using plants. Major processes in the carbon cycle are cellular respiration. We did a whole video about cellular respiration, but what it does, it places or puts CO2 into the environment. Photosynthesis, we have a whole nother video that I've done on photosynthesis. It removes CO2 from the atmosphere or the environment. And I suggest if you don't remember these two processes to go back to those videos and watch them again. So this is the carbon cycle in general sense. We have atmospheric carbon that comes in by photosynthesis, and it can go back to the atmosphere by respiration. The plants can be ate by an animal who can place it back because of respiration. Dead animals can decay, and bacteria goes in and it turns it through respiration back into the atmosphere. So it's all cycling through, and once it's back in the atmosphere, it comes back through when it's with photosynthesis. So it's a continuous cycle going on with carbon through all the different aspects of the environment. The other cycle is called the nitrogen cycle. This is process by which nitrogen and its compounds are interconverted in the environment and in the living organisms. Now, if you remember, 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen, and lightning and bacteria can convert nitrogen into a useful form called amino acids. What do amino acids form into? Proteins. Go back and watch that video if you forgot that. An important part of the nitrogen cycle is called nitrogen fixation, which converts atmospheric nitrogen, which is known as N2, into ammonium, which is NH4, which then can be used to make organic compounds like amino acids. And the place this is done with bacteria inside the soil. Inside the soil. There's a lot of different other parts to the nitrogen cycle. When I teach AP Environmental Science, we actually go into depth about the nitrogen cycle. But right now, you just need to know that it's about nitrogen cycling through the environment and what nitrogen fixation does. So here's the whole nitrogen cycle, whole bunch of different parts to it. I would pause this video, maybe sketch this out, write down where important parts are. If you don't recognize some of these terms, I suggest you maybe go to Google and look them up, or there's other videos out there that go in depth about the nitrogen cycle. And the last cycle is the water cycle. If you take an earth science, you have seen the water cycle before. You have evaporation that places that turns liquid water into gas water, and it goes in the atmosphere where condensation happens, forming into clouds. Then the liquid in there, the water turns into precipitation, all different forms, and it comes in. That water can run off the surface. One thing that's not up here, some of the water infiltrates into the soil and becomes groundwater. And another thing plants can do, it's called transpiration. It's when it releases water vapor from its leaves, and that water vapor goes in the atmosphere that's then later condensed. And all this stuff just continues to cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle. But that's all. Those are the basic stuff about those three types of nature cycles. There's other nature cycles out there like the phosphorus cycle. And if you want to know more about some nature cycles, I suggest you go over to Google and Google it. But I hope you learned a little bit today. And this is Mr. Norris, and he is signing out for this video.